Eagles are just a couple days away now. Thursday night is the preseason opener against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN. But injuries have been the story. We'll take a look at that and some of the other storylines that are going down at the NovaCare Center. Super Bowl champion Barrett Brooks from Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network weekday mornings from 6 to 8 with Barrett's breakdown, looking at the Eagles as they get ready. But Barrett, I do want to get your opinion first on what happened last night in that Hall of Fame game. Obviously, you're always looking out for the safety of the players, but come on, man, the league, how do they let that happen?
That's absolutely crazy that the league, that's a black eye with the league. Come on now. I mean, it's a professional entity. They understand what you need to have for a player to play. We went through that before years ago with the Eagles, about 15 years ago, with unsafe playing conditions.
Were you on that team? You were on that team at the Vet?
No, I wasn't on that team. Okay. But I was against Baltimore. And, I mean, if you be real honest and evaluate the condition I played in my rookie year, playing on that old Vet turf or carpet or asphalt that we played on,
concrete,
wasn't safe either. Yeah. But I will say this. It's a travesty that the league allowed that to happen. This is the first game of the season, the Hall of Fame game, and to not have safe playing conditions, And it wasn't as though they were looking out for the team. That definitely wasn't the case. It was the lawyers and everybody that was really looking out for the players. They were saying if even one player gets hurt, that's $1 million lawsuit. They just didn't want to take a chance. They would have went on with the game if it hadn't been for the lawyers advising them not to.
Well, they went on with it last year and guys got hurt. You saw D'Angelo Williams tweeting about it that, the kicker from Pittsburgh got hurt last year, tore his ACL. You had a couple other knee injuries on that playing surface last year, which apparently is a new surface that was donated from the New Orleans Saints building over there. So it was an NFL field. It wasn't like there was just a high school field or something. The surface that surface has been used in NFL games before.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I mean, that's actually, I think, a Sportex field, if I'm not mistaken. Sportex actually supplies the field for the Superdome, or is that a Superdome or the whatever Metrodome, whatever that dome
Superdome,
is there
right.
in New Orleans. Yeah, the Superdome. So that's a Sportex field. So if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, just the fact that you can't go out there and play an NFL game, the fact that they had, all those events on the field leading up to the game, you should have known that it wasn't going to be safe playing conditions, not allowing, the field to really get a chance to breathe, using chemicals and paint that is not conducive to playing on the surface, So it was just all wrong to begin with. And I'm glad the lawyers really got in, stepped in, and stopped us from doing that because people got hurt on that field before.
All right, Barrett Brooks is with us. Barrett, I want to get your take on the physicality at Eagles practice. It's been a big story. A lot of guys banged up. You're going to have Matthews out possibly till the start of the year. Peters and Jenkins won't play this week. You had another guy, Kendricks, leave today. Do you think it's time to kind of reel back on the tackling and the hitting a little bit?
Absolutely not. For the most part, these are precautionary in nature. These guys weren't going to practice a lot to begin with, especially Peters. He's going to get his maintenance days and which he needs. Malcolm Jenkins really doesn't need to have that much practice time either. He's a guy that really goes in and understands what it is to play at this level. He's played in both defenses before, so he'll be all right. Matthews, they just don't want him to go into the season tweaking in any type of way. So anytime he even feels an inkling of a twinge or something, they're going to slow him down. They're not going to allow him to go out there and practice. So these are all maintenance days. This is what they need. They need this physicality going into the season. This is a physical team. You need to be a physical team leading into the playoffs. Not to say they're going to be a playoff team, but that's how you get to the playoffs. You have to become a physical team. How many teams that play, that are not physical teams, the teams that, do more of a finesse type of game, how many of those teams make it to the playoffs? Not a lot. Yeah. In fact, I only known of one that really did it, and that was San Fran. San Fran's more of a physical team, and that was back in the day. But now you got to be physical. You got to be able to run the ball and at the end of the season. And the beginning of the season, you have to temper yourself now to get ready to go out there and play at a much physical and faster presence that you did last year.
Hey, I want to get your opinion. We'll start with that offensive line because you mentioned Peters. He's been banged up the last couple of years. While he might, be ready to go when the season starts, I thought it was interesting today that Doug Pederson kind of indicated that if Peters got hurt, that Tobin would play left tackle and that Lane Johnson would stay at right tackle. I thought that was a little bit of a surprise because Pederson was asked, how come Lane Johnson hasn't been playing any left tackle in the exhibition or in training camp? Would you feel comfortable with Matt Tobin being the guy playing left tackle?
You know what? I don't care how good of a preseason he's had. He would not start for me under any circumstances. He'd be a guy that have to go in during the game, but he wouldn't start. Not for me. If that was to happen, I doubt seriously that they would leave Lane Johnson on the right side. I think he's just going out there and really kind of give this guy a boost of confidence because he got ran through the rigmaroles of being a starter, and he just wasn't ready. So if it all happened, they would move Johnson to the left side, and then they probably remove Alan Barbary out to right tackle, as opposed to even bringing Matt Tobin in, and then bring Wes Newski in at left guard. Mm-hmm. So that'll probably be the best lineup that they could put out there, and that's exactly what they would do. They would not allow Tobin to go out there and do what he did last year. Him and Kelly got the quarterback creamed every time they were out there together. So you just don't put a guy. You don't put a quarterback in that position. You don't put the running back in that position. Those guys really aren't what you would say starters in this league. They're backups or even maybe backups to backups.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was a little surprised that he basically, he said, we would go with Tobin. Right now, he's done a nice job. I agree with you. I think they would probably make a move.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He just want to, cause dissension in the ranks. Tobin's just there as being a stopgap. Once it hits the fan, once games start counting, best believe Johnson will go to the left side. They will move Barbary to the right side and bring Wisniewski in at the guard position.
Are they better off? Let me ask you about Barbary and the left guard spot. Is that a spot where Barbary is just so far ahead of Wisniewski and Sayamala? Do they want Barbary to win that job? Is that the indication you're getting?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I think Barbary's played well enough to keep the job. He hasn't lost the job, and there's been years, past that, guys would win by default. I think Alan Barbary has really went out there and demanded the position and controlled the position. He's played well enough that you have to consider him a starter on that team. At this point, Wisniewski, he's an okay player, but he hasn't really had a chance to go over there on the left side to try to beat out Barbary, and I don't think he played that well at right. He played okay at the right side, at right guard, but he didn't play well enough to beat Alan Barbary out.
All right, we're talking with Barrett Brooks, looking at Eagles training camp. They'll play Thursday night. Looking at that offensive line, give me your thoughts on Kelsey now. I mean, it seems like this is a big year for him because, the last couple of seasons he has struggled a little bit, and there's been a lot of questions, yet he's a guy that gets handed a position. Give me your take on Kelsey.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. Since you haven't heard much about Kelsey's play, means he's doing a damn good job. That's the one thing about an offensive lineman. Once your name is on the paper, once your name is being called upon, it's usually not under the good circumstances that it happens. Usually because you're doing a bad job. Kelsey at this point has been very, very consistent. He understands what offense that Coach Pederson has implemented. He's getting the right calls, getting guys in the right position. He's building a little camaraderie between him and Barbary. They're getting, they're getting along pretty good as far as their play. Now he's got to go in and get acclimated to Brandon Brooks. As they, go further along the training camp, I think that tandem, the three guys inside, they will be okay. They will be just fine. I think Kelsey is playing at a level in which he's not dominating and being an all-star at this point, but he is playing well enough and consistent enough that you don't hear his name, and that's all you want. He's not getting pushed back. He's gaining a little weight. He's playing a little physical in there.
Talk about then, you played in the interior of that line, like adding Brandon Brooks and having a guy like Alan Barbary for the second year, how that could help Jason Kelsey.
Well, it's going to help Jason Kelsey in the aspect that now you have consistency there. You have guys can play, not guys you have to be their crutch. A lot of the times Barbary played okay, but Tobin on the other side, he felt as though he had to compensate for some of the things that Tobin was doing. I mean, just to be honest, Tobin's just not a starting tackle, a starting guard in the league. And, you have a guy now on the right side in Brandon Brooks who's very, very consistent, very physical, brings a nasty disposition to the offensive line, and it gives you a stronger maybe right side than you have on the left side. At this point, if you're going to run the ball, you're going to run the ball to the right side because you have a guy with attitude of guard, and then you have one of the best athletes and who's really learned to be one of the top-tier tackles in Lane Johnson. So I think the right side is a strong side. You got a really, really good left tackle. Say what you want to say. Even though he's lost a step, he's still better than he's still a top 10 tackle in this league.
I was going to ask you about Peters. I was going to say, Barrett, give me your honest evaluation of Peters. Does he still have enough left in the tank to be, considered a top guy in this league? Because I think we all just take for granted, Peters is a top player, even though he's getting older. But do you still see a guy that plays at a high level?
I can't think of 10 guys that are, I can't think of him being less than the top 10 tackle in this league. In fact, top 10 offensive lineman in the league. He's still that good. Say what you want to say. He can still move the crowd. Very, very consistent, very athletic. Well, he doesn't have the same athleticism that he had before. Okay, now he's become human. He was superhuman at first. Now he's become human. He's above average, more than human. So he's a lot better than people give him credit for right now. And what he brings to the table now is still a nastiness, a mean disposition on that left tackle. But I will say this: he has the smarts now. He has the veteran leadership over on that side now to be somebody that could be above average. So the sense that he's played the game for a long time, played consistently so long, he knows the little idiosyncrasies of playing at that tackle position, still makes him a top 10 player, a top 10 offensive lineman in this league.
All right, that's good to hear. Because the offensive line was a big problem last year, and you wonder.
Huge problem.
Yeah, and did they make the necessary? 4 of the 5 guys are back. You had a huge problem, and 4 of the 5 guys are back again. But I guess Brandon Brooks adds that much to make you feel that this is a better line?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. It's not just Brandon Brooks that making this line a better line, but the overall way in which the offensive line is approaching the game now. Now they can go in, make their calls. It's not, hurry up offense the whole time. They can now execute better because they have time to diagnose what's going on as opposed to just running play after play after play. And say what you want to say, walking back to that huddle gives you a little time to get your breath back.
Yeah.
Then you can go out and execute the next play. Another thing is, I'm not going to say that they gave up, but I will say they didn't play as hard for Chip Kelly as they will play for Doug Pederson. That's the biggest thing. They will go out there and give their all to a guy that played, number one, number two, understands what it is to play, and number three, they got a genuine respect for the guy. They lost respect from Chip Kelly, so because of that, they stopped really playing for him as hard as they would. They will give it all for Coach Pederson.
Yeah, and you throw, I guess, the fact that I'll ask you this, Tim. I assume the fact that Doug Pederson, we assume because we used to get frustrated with Andy for throwing the ball so damn much, but when he went to Kansas City, it seemed like he evened that out, and they really turned into more of a running team in Kansas City. So do you look at Doug Pederson and this team as a run-first offense or a passing offense?
I will say it'll be as even as you can get. He's going to run a lot of 3 tight end sets, 2 tight end sets, which forces you to defend the run. And, once teams start trying to go out there and match up against them in man-to-man, it's going to open up a lot on the passing game. And then you can run the ball with the tight ends that they have. You have 2 athletic tight ends in Ertz, and Burton, but, Trey Burton. But I will say this. Those guys are good enough to block now, and you have Trey Burton that can play fullback and tight end. So it just gives you a lot more versatility on running a more balanced defense. All right, you're going to go in there, you're going to try to block with an 8-man box. They'll send Trey Burton on a wheel route, and he'll catch it over a linebacker all day. Then you want to put a 6-man box in there, then they're pounded down your throat. It really depends on what the defense is trying to do that's going to dictate what Coach Pederson is going to run the ball or if he's going to pass the ball. That's the biggest thing. If you try to defend a 3 tight end set with just 7 guys in the box, they're going to run the ball on you. If you try to bring that 8th man into the box, then they're going to throw over the top of you with Ertz out in the seam or Trey Burton on a wheel route or a Texas route on the inside. It really depends on how they're going to defend it on defense, which is going to dictate the game plan on how Doug Pederson is going to call this game.
Yeah, and I think Doug Pederson kind of indicated about Zach Ertz too, and I want to get your thoughts. You mentioned Burton too. I want you to throw. How did they get him on the field? Because there's been nothing but good reports about him. Do they got to find a way to get him out? You got Selleck, you got Ertz, and you got Burton. And Doug Pederson indicated that so did Frank Reich on Saturday that they are the deepest positions on this team as at tight end. Those three guys, they figured they admitted they got to figure out a way to get all those guys out there. How do you get three tight ends worked in?
Well, it depends on what set you're going to run. If you're in a heavy set, and you say heavy set, it'll still be the same three guys, but it depends on where you have them lined up on the field. If you put Trey Burton at fullback, Zach Ertz at the out there on the wing, or put them in the slot, and then have Selleck lined up on the opposite side or on the same side as they are on the line, that's actually a passing formation. It puts you in a position where you have to almost put nickel personnel on, because these guys are lined up in receiver position, and they're lined up, in a way in which it looks like a pass play. You can't really just put Ertz as a tight end and put a linebacker on him. So it really creates matchup problems. They can put him in a bunch formation. How do you stick a guy coming out the bunch formation? Now you have to defend the pass, and then they can run off that same form. It really depends on how they're lined up. If you put Zach Ertz on the line of scrimmage, opposite side of Selleck, and then you have Trey Burton in the backfield, now it looks like a run set. Now you can send both tight ends through the seams and put a wheel route with Burton going on the outside. That's the beauty of having three good tight ends, and especially two of the three are very, very athletic, in Ertz and Burton.
Yeah, Frank Reich said tight end's the strength of our roster. He said if you look at Doug Pederson's system, what they did in Kansas City with their tight ends and how we'll utilize them, we'll be consistent with that. Travis Kelce, he had 21% of the Chiefs' targets last year. And I love the way you just broke that down, Barrett, to get people a good indication of how they could be using these guys, because I think Burton, now, we hope he doesn't turn into Mr. Lehigh. We've always heard about that guy who's always been like, a star in training camp, but he seems like he has been kind of scratching the surface to get on the field the last 3 years here.
Yeah, he just wasn't in the right circumstances with Chip. Chip really didn't give him a chance to advance, with that hurry-up offense and the fact that he wanted as many receivers out on the field as he could put out there to put in a position to make plays. He just didn't get the chance. This offense will allow him to get that chance because Doug Pederson wants to play with the fullback, and he's going to have to go out and learn to block. I don't know how well his blocking is. Even though he did pretty well this training camp, he's going to have to go up against linebackers. Now he's not just going to be a pass catcher. He's going to have to go downhill and put some linebackers on their back. So it's imperative that he goes out and opposes his will on linebackers, opposes his will in blocking on pass plays. So he has to be able to block. But he creates just a matchup nightmare for most defensive coordinators because he's too big to put a linebacker on, to put a safety on, and he's way faster than just about every linebacker in the league. So he's just a nightmare to line up against. How do you defend him? And then you look on the other side, or wherever the Ertz is, you put both of those guys in the backfield. Which one is the strength? You go to the strength side when you go with Selleck. You go to his side. Then you have a guy, coming out the backfield in which you have to put a linebacker on. You line up in a strong position. It just puts you in a position where whichever way you go, you think wrong. And then the biggest thing now is that Sam Bradford has the ability to change the plays now. He couldn't do it before with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly didn't allow him to do it. It was just play after play after play, same basic 5 plays. In this offense, he'll be able to break down, diagnose, and see what the deficiencies are in the defense, which will allow them to put themselves in better situations. I saw too many times last year where they had uncovered receivers, and Sam would see it and try to check to it because he couldn't check to it. He'd act like he was going to throw it, and he'd get a sack, simply because the defense had crowded the ball where the ball was going because they did their research and understood that Chip was going to run to this side and this side only. He couldn't even get the open man on the other side. I remember specifically one play where Jordan Matthews was wide open. There was nobody over the top of him. There was no safety, but he went to go block instead of looking to see that he was wide open on the line of scrimmage. There was no defender out there on him, and he went and blocked. And, Sam Bradford saw it, looked up. Instead of running the play, he was going to throw it to him, but everybody else was blocking the run play, and he did not look up. Jordan Matthews did not look up simply because he was so ingrained with just running those plays Chip Kelly had.
Very interesting. Timmy, give me your thought on Bradford. He'll play, I guess Doug said today, if he goes 3-and-out, they might stick him back out there a couple times. A couple series, 3-and-out, we might send him back out. But if they go right down and score. But overall, it seems that if you follow different people, you'll get different, and I guess that kind of shows you what Bradford's doing so far. A little up, a little down. Some people think he's had a good camp. Others say, not that that's like the be-all, end-all. But I would ask this question. This time last year, he was not playing in Game 1. He was not ready to play in Game number 1. He was not healthy enough.
No, he wasn't.
So how far along do you see him, and how far he's come from when he got here last year to getting ready for Thursday night?
Well, it used to be a significant difference in how, he played as opposed to last year. He went through, he was healthy all through camp, all through the offseason. He wasn't worried about rehabbing, so he was able to go out there and develop things he hadn't developed in a long time, like his mechanics, reading defenses, things that he didn't do because he was just worried about rehabbing coming into the season. Well, this year he didn't. Then you look at Chase Daniel. When you first got to camp, he looked like he mastered the offense because he had ran out before. He looked like he was a lot more sharper than anybody on the field. Now, you can't even say that. Sam Bradford has put himself and differentiated himself so far ahead of both quarterbacks. It's not even funny. I don't know what people are looking at when they're saying Sam Bradford hadn't had a good camp. Let's sit down and review the film together. We'll see where he is. If you look at the other two, they throw a lot of check downs because they don't understand which holes are going to be open, where he has to get the ball into the tight spots. He understands where the ball is going pre-snap because he understands what the defense is trying to do to him. He's far superior at this point than any other quarterback on the field. Carson Wentz is nowhere near ready. His technique at this point is not bad, but it needs so much improvement that if he did go out there, he would revert back to his old techniques and revert back to the old mechanics that he had because he doesn't know the offense as well as he needs to know it at this point. So he's a rookie, so he's going to play like a rookie. Chase Daniel just doesn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't have that it factor. Sam Bradford has that it factor. He understands the deep offense now. He knows where the defense is going to where he can put in the defense and where he can hit holes in the defense. He's just a far better player at this point than any other quarterback, and it's showing now. So who's ever watching film at this point, I want to sit down and watch film with him just so we can see what and how far he is ahead of the other quarterback.
And Doug Pederson indicated exactly what you have today, Barrett, that Wentz has just been inaccurate, and a lot of that has to do with mechanics and footwork. That once he maybe understands the offense a little better, that will help him clean up his mechanics and his footwork. Because not only is he thinking about his mechanics and his footwork, he's also thinking about learning the plays. Because I'm sure that he doesn't have that 100% down. Like when you're a rookie, how far into camp or into the year do you finally feel comfortable with those calls coming in?
No, you don't, man. You gotta play like a rookie, man. I went through the same thing with Ben Roethlisberger. Even though he played 115 games, he had a far superior defense, and he had a very simplistic offense. All we did, it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We hand the ball back to Jerome Bettis, Woody Parker, and Deuce Staley, and throw over the top to Hines Ward and Randall L. So it was very simple in what he was asked to do once Tommy Maddox went out of the game in the second game of the season.
Yeah.
But you got to look at this from a rookie quarterback. This is what's happening. This is how you break it down. He receives the call from the offensive coordinator. All right, now he's processing. How do I get this information to my huddle? So then he bursts out a call. All right, this is what we have to run. Then he has a snap count. He gets to the line. Not only has to think about the play he just told him, evaluate the defense, he also has to remember his snap count. Then once the ball is snapped to him, he's got to go back, drop back. When he drops back, he's got the defense looking up. He's got, fire zone blitzes and everything else coming at him. He has to understand where his receivers are going to be at, where his running back is going to be at, who does he have as his hot read, what does offensive line have in protection. There's so many things that are going through his head at that point. It's just not conducive for a rookie quarterback to go out and think of his mechanics and think of the play and think of the snap count and think of what the defense is trying to do him and still execute the offense and get it to the proper guy at the proper window at the proper time. So it's just too much to ask a rookie quarterback to go out there and do, and most guys are not successful at it. There's only, a few guys you can just pick right out of the tree and eat it to say it that year. And, there's not a lot of Andrew Lucks just walking around like that, period, point blank.
He's Barrett Brooks, Super Bowl champion. Of course, you can see him weekday mornings 6 to 8 on the Comcast Network during Breakfast on Broad, and every Monday with Barrett's Breakdown here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. We could talk for hours about some of this stuff, pal.
Man, I got so much stuff to break down, man. The season hasn't even started yet. I want to sit there and talk about the DBs. I want to talk about the linebackers. They might sign Tulloch. They should have been signed Tulloch.
Yeah.
There's so much we could talk about, man. So, hey, I got a wealth of information, man. In fact, you might have to call me back tomorrow at 3 o'clock, bro.
Hey, you know what? If I'm bored and I feel like talking more football, I'll hit you up.
Hit me up, bro.
All right, brother. Take care.